Here's an idea. There's no such thing as offline. Okay, before you get all riled up, we're not gonna talk about how the internet doesn't exist because here it is, in your face.
I'm in your face.
We are going to talk about our relationship to it though, and how that relationship is confusing. Sort of like the relationship between Dr. Pepper and Mr. Pibb. Are they work associates? Cousins? Lovers? Our relationship to the internet is confusing because we use all of these action verbs and location words. You visit websites, you surf, and you bookmark things. We talk about the deep web like it has a size, and we talk about the dark web like it has shadowy bits. In fact, this is how we talk about computers in general. We have mice, which are not actually small animals, and desktops, which are not actually the top of a desk, and all of these other things that are so second nature, their metaphoric base has totally eroded. The ways that we talk about our computers and the internet have this residue of the past. Like when the technology which would eventually become the internet was first strung together in the 1950s, it was a closed network of machines working together. Computers connected to the network were said to be online. They were part of the process. But as the internet grew to a nearly ungrokkable spaghetti mountain of worldwide connections, anything and everything connected, connectable, accessible, and verifiable through the internet, its ubiquity and complexity invites the question, is someone or something ever not online? I don't mean to suggest we're always using the internet. There are plenty of situations where that would be inappropriate or downright dangerous. But more like, do you have to be using the internet to be online? And if you're in the middle of the woods, are you offline? If you're looking at Twitter on your phone or playing Halo multiplayer, then of course you're online. But are you online if you're sending a text message? Or what if you're being forced to watch this video in a classroom? What if you have a Tumblr with an auto-posting queue or a Wikipedia entry? What if, while away from your computer, you think to yourself, that would make a great animated GIF? Are you online if you keep your money in a bank or have a driver's license? I would say yes to all of these, but especially the animated GIF one. I think that all the time. Even media which are not online are online insofar as you can arrange access to them online. I mean, if you can get Frank Stallone in Terror in Beverly Hills online, you can get anything online. Fact. But really, the way that we talk about the online-offline distinction is sort of like the heap paradox. When adding grains of sand to a pile, when does the pile officially become a heap? At what point, while providing connectivity to a person or piece of media, is online officially achieved? It is impossible to say, and maybe unhelpful to boot. In Social Relationships and Identity, Online and Offline, sociologist Don Slater says that it is the making of the online-offline distinction that needs studying, rather than assuming it exists and then studying its consequences. Any boundary drawn between online and offline will always be contingent, variable, and unstable. How and why we make this distinction is like the weather and Taylor Swift's love life. It is always changing and always in your face.
I'm in your face.
Which might lead you to wonder, does this limit us in some way? Drawing an imaginary line between online and offline in the sand, maybe even claiming that one is more real than the other. And when the time comes to erase the distinction, we might not see it for what it is, because influenced by the language we use to describe it, we'll hold on to it because it's the only way we know how to think about it. And what if, now hold on to your unusual hats, the time to erase the distinction between online and offline is right now? I mean, our proximity to the network is only shrinking. What with phones constantly at hand, internet in our watches, and lamps you can text message, we might in some sense never be not using the internet, let alone offline. Maybe it's time to resurrect ye olde away from keyboard or AFK, because it's more appropriate to describe our method of interaction with the internet as opposed to some unclear on or offness. Cyberspace and meatspace sort of just converge, kind of like the dimensional gateway from Event Horizon. Look at Google Glass and the Fuel Band and the Pebble Watch and the Internet Fridge. I mean, go and Google wearable technology and just be amazed. Some people, Cherry Turkle, might say that this is no good, slow your roll technology and take a chill pill. They might say that the online-offline distinction is something that we need to maintain our relationships, to communicate with one another, to stay human. But after rolling my eyes so hard they almost get stuck in the top of my head, I wonder if you're not a monk, survivalist, or pile of rocks, if you could ever actually be offline. And if this idea that we behave or connect differently online from off is just an effective linguistically inspired line in the sand where in reality there's just sand. Smooth sand. What do you guys think? Is there an online and offline? Let us know in the comments. And if you're not stuck in the deep web, please subscribe. Bonk. Let's see what you guys had to say about bitcoins and unusual hats. Hank Green makes a really great point about the way that value is generated in a currency, and that algorithmically generated value might be a little fishy. Brumagem and Mectrode on Twitter pointed out that you don't necessarily have to pay to get objects to turn into refined metal, that you can just play the game and you will be given those things automatically, which is a very important thing that we didn't mention. You are still getting paid in some sense for working, whether or not idling counts as working. MRV958 and a bunch of other people got really upset that I said gold has intrinsic value, which I understand your argument. I think from my point of view, what I mean is that as a currency, it's kind of irreducible. It doesn't combine with anything else, it won't degrade, and we think of dollars a lot of the times as referencing gold, but gold only references itself, more gold. So thank you for asking me to clarify. David Banville brings us a quote from a Jane McGonigal book where she talks about the devaluation of the yuan because of virtual economies. So we'll pause here so you can read it. It's really interesting. To Meito Anizawa, admittedly it's been a while since I played a lot of TF2. I used to go back and forth between the spy and the sniper a lot. If there's too many snipers, I will just play as a scout.
And do the Harlem Shake.